Rahul. Thank you very much and welcome to you.
Thank you so much. And I want to touch upon a topic which we had covered a little bit in our one of our previous sessions when we were, I think, talking about generational differences. We also spoke about diversity and inclusion because at that point of time we had made that topic a little bit broader. So bringing back the same topic, this is very very relevant in today's time. A lot has been spoken about it, but I wanted to hear how how you would look at the importance of diversity and inclusion. That's question one in today's time, specifically for a leader, for effective leadership. Why is it important? And second, again, if you could share through some example how someone could become better in this area. And what I mean by that is that how do I master leading diversity and inclusion effectively as a leader? So through any example of someone that you coached or otherwise, if you would share, that's the second question.
Yeah, I think it's a very important question, and it's a question that becomes more critical going forward. Of course, the whole DEI sector is in essence driven from a regulatory perspective. And that's basically because it was not managed well, or it isn't managed well in many organizations. So it creates disparity, and that creates problems. But I look at that when I work with my clients, I look at that from a different perspective again. I challenge my clients to identify what does diversity actually mean. Because often when we talk diversity, it's a question of Caucasian versus African American, or men versus women. But diversity is many things. It's certainly gender, certainly race, certainly ethnicity, certainly cultural diversity, certainly age or generational diversity. And the key is that every group looked in itself specifically brings certain aspects to the table. If you don't have that group at the table, you are missing an aspect. So when we look at teams and organizations, the more diversity we can create actually enriches the cultural aspects, enriches the know-how, enriches the experience and expertise, enriches the perspectives, and overall, there is meanwhile plenty of research about these diverse teams, generally well led, have create a higher performance than more pure teams, pure in the sense of little to no diversity, because they don't have that perspectives available that are necessary in today's world. From a consumer perspective, from a application perspective, and service perspective, and so on. So as leaders, we need to look at diversity and create an understanding for ourselves as leaders, as well as for our team, of the benefits that diversity bring with it. And drive that, because that really enhances an organization's performance profile. And of course, that brings with it several different areas. One is, of course, when you grow up in a certain environment, and then you are confronted with a different environment, there are often then fears and trepidations, and people are challenged. So you need to learn to become more open and less fearful. And there are some ways to do that. You can always ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen if I have now several people of a different race in my team, or of a different culture, or a different experience level? And then look at what can they actually contribute. Because you will find that the benefits generally outweigh any perceived negative aspects. And once we start looking at that and analyzing that from a more maybe neutral perspective, we will also recognize the strength of different people, of different areas where they come from, and ways that they come from, and it's so powerful. And we need to learn as leaders to go about it without making assumptions. We'd rather ask questions and find out and learn about it, and help people find together. And that's where then the necessary communication skills come into play. So in what I mean to say, maybe in too many words, is it is how, as leaders, how we behave that will drive the ability to create diversity and consequently inclusion. If you have a non-diverse team, inclusion is not really an issue. But as our teams can generally, our organizations generally become more diverse, because the body in the population is more diverse, we have to think about inclusion. What's the purpose of inclusion? The purpose of inclusion really is all about belonging. And if you think about belonging for a moment, if you think about the hierarchy of needs, the first level of need is food and shelter, survival. Second level is security. Again, survival. If that is met, the next prevalent need is belonging. As humans, we like to be part of a family, of a community, of a group. We need that. Belonging is important to us. And for that, as leaders, we need to create an environment where people can belong, where they are a part of the group, no matter if they are black, white, green, or red, old or young, male, female, or whatever other definition there might be out there. They all want to be part of a group. They all want to belong. And effective leaders create an environment and behave and communicate in a way where people can belong, and it leads us back to vision and values in reality. Because if you have an engaging vision that people can understand and they know they can be part of something that is bigger than them, it creates that sense of belonging. And if the values of the organization cater to that type of behavior, that we are inclusive, that we make decisions based on that, then we create that outcome that we try to force with regulatory measures and with so-called DEI training. And if you go into a DEI training, what it is all about is pointing out that you and I look different, and you and I may think different. But that doesn't mean that you and I can bring individually value to the table that is beneficial for the overall organization. And that's really what the essence of that is, creating belonging. And when business owners and leaders and executives think about it in those terms, the way we think, the way we act. We act the way we think. So when our thinking changes towards belonging and inclusion, our behavior, our actions will follow that thinking. Does that make any sense?
Totally agree, Manfred. I think all what you said, so relevant. It makes sense. And I wanted to ask the last question since we are almost out of time. A lot of what you said is um, is is not only relevant, but I would also say that as a leader, most progressive leaders would want to act on it. But I've seen cases where uh, it's not the intent which is the problem, it's the subconscious biases which have been there for ages that become a hurdle. So the last question I have, and making it kind of shorter in interest of time, is there a advice that you typically give to leaders that you coach, a simple do or don't to keep in mind to gradually overcome that subconscious bias?
Well, I don't know if you can call it a tool, but what I challenge my clients in that respect um, is related to self-awareness. And when you feel uncomfortable about another person, ask yourself, what is it that makes you feel uncomfortable? Is it what that individual said or did? Or is it how that individual looks like? Or is it simply because you don't really understand where they're coming from? I mean, there are different reasons. There is not one kind of size fits all or one tool, but it's typically it starts with a discomfort. Recognize the discomfort and ask yourself, what is the reason? And often you will see there is no substantiated reason it's X or Y. It's more like, well, I'm not sure. Well, if it's I'm not sure, well, Find out, ask some questions, have a conversation, share some thoughts, and you will realize that in the end we all cook with water. We all have to go pee once a while. We are not that different. We may have different perspectives and we may have a different history and may have a different education or whatever it might be. But in the end, conceptually, we are not that much different.
Thank you, Manfred. So much more to, I would say, talk and discuss about on this particular topic, but I'm glad that already a lot more conversations are happening. That awareness which you mentioned is getting created through these conversations. Right questions are being asked, and hence we are making progress in an area where I think where the state of things are, they are a result of a long history, but through collective efforts we are overcoming. So very glad about it, and unfortunate that we don't have too much time, but I would have loved to talk more on this topic, and I'm sure you have been coaching executives in this important area as well. Anyone who is watching this particular session or listening to, I would strongly recommend to contact you for further support on this one.